They came from the stars, gleaming ships that blotted out the sun, carrying voices that spoke in commands, not words. The first conquerors didn't come to talk or trade. They came to rule. Humanity was just another species to be cataloged, another planet to be stripped clean. Cities burned in the shadow of alien war machines, and the skies turned red with fire. For centuries, Earth was nothing more than a scarred world under alien boots, divided among empires that considered themselves gods. Each one, cold, arrogant, and certain that humans were beneath notice, took what they wanted and left ashes behind. But humanity didn't disappear. We hid, we learned, and we remembered. In the ruins of our fallen cities, people whispered stories of freedom. In the dark tunnels and broken skyscrapers, old machines were rebuilt, old languages reborn. What the conquerors never understood was that humans were patient. They mistook silence for submission. They mistook weakness for peace. But in the quiet, we were growing sharper. We were becoming something they couldn't measure, something that didn't fit in their calculations or their logic. The first cracks in their dominance began small. A patrol ship lost contact near the old equator line. A colony's communication grid went dark. Then another. The empires blamed each other, certain that no human could challenge them. But deep beneath the surface of the planet they'd claimed, something was stirring, an old species rediscovering its fire. The conquerors had forgotten what Earth used to be. They didn't remember that this was the world that survived ice ages, floods, and wars that ended civilizations long before aliens ever noticed us. They didn't realize that humans didn't need to be the strongest. We just needed to be the last ones standing. Soon, small acts of defiance turned into coordinated strikes. Drones that once served alien masters turned on them. Their own technology, stolen, studied, and repurposed, became humanity's weapon. A whisper turned into a movement. A movement turned into a storm. The arrogant conquerors, who once laughed at the idea of resistance, began to fear the shadows that moved through their cities at night. Every empire that had taken a piece of Earth found itself bleeding from within. But this story isn't just about revenge. It's about something deeper. The moment when a species realizes that its place in the galaxy isn't to kneel, but to stand. The moment when humanity, tired of being conquered, decided to rise, not as victims, but as equals. Or perhaps as something greater. Now the empires that once ruled every corner of this planet have fallen silent. Their ships drift like ghosts above a world they thought they owned. The question that remains, the one whispered across every surviving colony and hidden base, is simple. If humanity could rise from ruin and bring empires to their knees, what comes next? Because the stars are still out there, and somewhere beyond them, other conquerors are watching, waiting, wondering if the stories they've heard about Earth are true. And soon, they'll find out. They said the war was over, but no one could remember the day it truly ended. There was no grand victory, no single battle that turned the tide. The alien fleets didn't explode in the sky. They just stopped. One by one, their ships went silent. Some drifted aimlessly in orbit. Others crashed into oceans or mountains. Their cities, those massive metallic fortresses that once loomed above human settlements, now stood empty, humming with dead power. The conquerors had vanished, leaving behind a planet covered in ruins and questions. For most survivors, that silence was more terrifying than the war itself. People wondered if it was a trick, if the empires were watching from afar, waiting to see what humanity would do next. No one knew if they had truly left, or if they were hiding in places unseen. But as months passed, and no new ships appeared in the sky, humans began to crawl back into the daylight. They emerged from underground shelters, from old tunnels and broken bunkers, carrying the same stubborn fire that had kept them alive through it all. In those first days after the fall, the world felt strange. Too quiet, too still. The old nations were gone, replaced by scattered communities that barely trusted each other. The only thing they shared was the same haunting question: how had humanity done it? No one could explain how the empires, with all their power and science, had fallen so suddenly. Some said it was a virus, others claimed it was sabotage. There were even whispers that the conquerors turned on each other, consumed by their arrogance. But a few, those who had been closest to the fighting, spoke of something else. They said humans had changed. The rumors spread fast. Stories of people who could sense alien technology, who could manipulate it with nothing more than a thought. Strange readings from the old battlefields. Machines that came alive when touched by human hands. Scientists, scavengers, and soldiers all tried to make sense of it, but no one had answers. It was as if Earth itself had reached out, defending her children in ways no one understood. Still, not everyone believed those stories. Many were too focused on rebuilding, planting crops, cleaning the air, trying to make homes out of wreckage. But in the quiet corners of the new world, others searched for truth. They explored the ruins of alien strongholds, recording strange symbols glowing faintly in the dark. They found data fragments left in shattered consoles, maps, warnings, and messages written in languages no one could translate. And always, in every piece of alien code, one word appeared again and again: humanity. Whatever had happened, the empires hadn't expected it. Their last transmissions, what little could be recovered, sounded like fear. Entire fleets retreating, worlds abandoning their colonies, messages cut off mid-sentence. The great conquerors of the stars had fled from something they couldn't understand. Now, decades later, the children born after the fall grow up hearing stories of those final days. They look to the stars not with fear but with curiosity. They don't remember the chains that once bound their ancestors. They only know the stories of a people who refused to die. But somewhere above them, beyond the black veil of space, signals are stirring again. Strange frequencies, faint transmissions. Someone, or something, is listening. And soon, humanity will have to answer. The first real sign of trouble came from the northern colonies. A signal, short, distorted, and filled with static, broke through every communication line. It wasn't a human voice, but it wasn't alien either. It carried patterns that no one could decode, mixed with something eerily familiar. Within hours, all contact with the northern outposts was lost. Drones sent to investigate never returned. At first, the leaders of the new settlements argued it was just interference from the old orbital debris, but the fear in their eyes told another story. Humanity had barely begun to rebuild, and already, the shadows of the past were stirring again. In the southern plains, survivors who made a living scavenging alien wreckage began reporting strange occurrences. Machines long thought dead flickered back to life. Lights pulsed within buried engines, and whispering sounds echoed through empty halls of metal. Some said the alien tech was waking up. Others believed something, or someone, was trying to use it again. Whatever it was, people started vanishing near the old battlefields. No bodies, no traces. Just silence, the same kind that came before the fall of the empires. At the heart of this growing unease stood the New Earth Council, a fragile alliance of human enclaves trying to maintain order. Their scientists were racing to uncover the truth behind the mysterious energy spikes and lost colonies. Among them was a quiet researcher who had devoted years to studying alien frequencies. She claimed that the signals coming from the north were not new. They were echoes, a reflection of something humanity had done decades ago during the uprising. But her warnings went unheard. The council was more interested in showing strength than asking questions. Meanwhile, deep beneath the ruins of an old orbital elevator, a group of scavengers discovered something impossible, a working alien core. It pulsed faintly, reacting to their presence, almost as if it could sense them. One of them reached out to touch it, and for a brief second, he saw flashes of something vast and cold, a vision of stars bending and empires falling. When he came to, his voice was different, his eyes empty. He whispered one phrase over and over again: "They are coming back." The discovery spread fast, but so did fear. Some believed the aliens had left something behind, a weapon or a warning. Others thought the core was proof that humanity had done something terrible to win the war, something they could no longer control. Theories filled the airwaves, and paranoia grew. Was this a second invasion? Or was it something born from humanity itself? In the midst of this chaos, small factions began to form. Some wanted to destroy every piece of alien technology left on Earth, fearing it would bring the Conquerors back. Others argued it was the key to protecting the planet from whatever was coming. Tensions rose between settlements, old scars reopening. The same unity that had helped humanity survive was beginning to fracture. And yet, the signals continued. Every night, more frequencies appeared, stronger, clearer, closer. They weren't random anymore. They were searching, scanning, as if something out there was looking for Earth, for the ones who had defied the stars. No one knew whether to prepare for war or for something far worse. But one truth was becoming impossible to ignore. The silence that had followed the fall of the empires was ending. Something was returning to the skies. And this time, humanity would not be caught unprepared. The night the sky changed, everyone felt it. The stars seemed to shimmer differently, as if something massive had shifted just beyond sight. Static rolled through every frequency on the planet, turning communication towers into sparks of lightning and filling the air with a low hum that vibrated through bone. Across the wastelands, power grids flickered to life without being touched, glowing faintly with alien light. Humanity had seen war, ruin, and silence, but never anything like this. It wasn't destruction this time. It was a presence. The Earth Council went on emergency broadcast within hours. The message was shaky, the signal unstable, but the fear in their voices was clear. Something was approaching. Not ships, not fleets, something larger. A ripple in space itself, bending the upper atmosphere. The scientists said it wasn't an invasion yet, but they couldn't explain what it was. The old alien cores, once silent, began resonating together, pulsing with patterns that matched the strange signals from orbit. It was as if they were calling to something. Something that had finally answered. In the northern ruins, a small team of explorers searching for survivors captured the first real evidence. A video feed showed an immense shape emerging from a thunderstorm, its surface flickering with symbols that weren't human. The shape hovered above the clouds for only a moment before vanishing into the dark. The feed cut off with a burst of sound, half static, half scream. When the signal was recovered, a single line of code appeared in every database linked to it. The translation was uncertain, but the message was unmistakable. Return what was taken. The meaning sent shockwaves through the council and every settlement. People argued over what the aliens meant. What had humanity taken? Some said it was their technology, others believed it was something deeper, something living. The researcher who had warned them before resurfaced with an alarming theory. During the uprising, she said, humanity might have triggered a failsafe hidden within the alien systems, something that merged with human DNA. The sudden evolution, the ability to manipulate alien tech, it wasn't natural. It was inherited. Humanity had become something new, something the empires hadn't intended to create. And now, whoever or whatever was out there wanted it back. The revelation tore through the population. Panic spread across settlements. Some wanted to surrender whatever the message demanded, but others refused, claiming it was proof that humanity had finally surpassed its conquerors. The skies glowed for 3 nights straight, and on the 4th, all artificial satellites went offline at once. Every screen went black. Every piece of alien machinery powered down. Then, one by one, human systems began to fail too. The world sank into a strange, electric silence. In that darkness, strange lights appeared in the upper atmosphere, hundreds of them, forming patterns that stretched across continents. The air felt charged, almost alive, and somewhere beneath the Earth's crust, deep inside forgotten alien vaults, the buried cores started to awaken fully. They pulsed in rhythm like a heartbeat. The Council sent one last transmission before losing contact with the outside world. It was a simple message, carried on every emergency frequency. They're not coming to conquer us. They're coming to collect. And as the horizon began to glow with that same alien light, humanity stood at the edge of its greatest test. Not of survival, but of identity. The stars were moving again, and this time every eye on Earth turned upward, waiting for whatever would emerge from the dark. The light on the horizon didn't fade. It spread. It moved like a living wave, climbing mountains, crossing oceans, and swallowing the night sky in pale gold. For a few moments, humanity stood breathless beneath it, certain the conquerors had returned. But then the light changed. It wasn't coming from above. It was rising from the Earth itself. Across the world, the old alien vaults began to open, their ancient seals breaking apart with deep, echoing sounds that shook cities to their foundations. Whatever had been buried after the empires fell was waking up. And it wasn't alien anymore. People gathered in streets, on rooftops, in open fields, staring as shards of metal rose from the ground like roots tearing free from soil. The sky filled with trails of energy linking the vaults together in a web of light. The Earth Council's remaining transmitters came back online just long enough to relay one final discovery. Those signals weren't a threat from the stars. They were coordinates. And they weren't pointing toward Earth, they were pointing out. Humanity wasn't being hunted. It was being summoned. The revelation hit harder than any weapon. The empires hadn't vanished in fear. They had retreated because humanity had become something they could no longer control. The uprising hadn't just freed Earth. It had triggered a transformation that reached beyond biology or technology. Humans had adapted the alien systems in ways their creators couldn't replicate. Somewhere in that long war, humanity had turned their enemy's power inward, fusing it with their own. The Conquerors' tools had changed the species itself, and now something out there wanted to know how. As the realization spread, another shock followed. In a hidden archive beneath the council chambers, data from the old orbital stations was decrypted. It revealed a message not from the aliens, but from humans who had vanished decades earlier. They had built something before the end, a failsafe buried beneath the Arctic ice. The message was fragmented, but one phrase stood out clearly. If they ever return, don't run. Remember what we became. The council had no time to interpret it. Tremors shook the ground as massive beams of light connected the alien vaults across the globe. For the first time in generations, Earth's magnetic field shifted. Satellites that had been offline suddenly reactivated, broadcasting impossible readings. Something in orbit, something human-made, was responding to the pulse, and then the second twist revealed itself. The supposed alien lights in the atmosphere weren't ships. They were signals from human installations, hidden stations launched during the final days of the war, equipped with hybrid cores made from both alien and human technology. Those stations had been waiting for a trigger. Now they were awake. Energy surged through the skies, forming a shimmering network that wrapped around the planet. For the first time, Earth looked alive from orbit, a glowing sphere of synchronized power. Scientists realized too late what was happening. The old failsafe wasn't a defense system. It was an answer. Humanity wasn't just reacting to the incoming presence. It was reaching back. The stars above began to flicker in response, as if something vast and intelligent was noticing Earth's signal. Across every settlement, power grids overloaded, and the ground trembled with a deep, resonant hum. Humanity had called out to the universe, and something had heard, but no one knew if it was friend or foe. All they knew was that the light was spreading faster and brighter, and the moment it reached its peak, the sky itself seemed to tear open. And in that blinding glow, every survivor realized the same terrifying truth. This was not the end of humanity's story. It was the beginning of something far greater, and far more dangerous. The sky split open with a light so bright it silenced the world. Every machine, every circuit, every voice stopped. The air trembled, heavy with static and something deeper, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. People fell to their knees, not out of worship, but from sheer awe. The glow that had spread across the earth was no longer rising or pulsing. It was focused now, drawn upward into a single blazing column that reached into the stars. And from within that light came shapes, vast, moving, and silent. The Conquerors had returned, but they weren't as they once were. Their ships, if they could even be called ships anymore, looked fractured, their perfect designs warped by something unseen. The beings that stepped forward from the light were no longer the untouchable rulers humanity remembered. They moved like echoes, their forms unstable, flickering between matter and shadow. When they spoke, their words weren't commands. They were pleading. They said the same message over and over in a dozen broken voices. Give it back. The Earth Council, barely functioning through chaos, managed to open a communication channel. The surviving researcher, her voice steady but afraid, demanded to know what they meant. The aliens didn't answer in words. Instead, The skies above shifted again, showing visions, memories of the war, moments when humanity had fought back using stolen technology. But woven into those memories was something new, a pulse of light, a signal that had originated not from alien code, but from the human mind. Somehow, in the chaos of resistance, humanity hadn't just learned their systems, it had merged with them. The human race had unknowingly created a shared neural network that connected every hybrid machine, every altered mind, and even the Earth itself. The Conquerors hadn't lost to weapons. They had lost to evolution. The truth hit everyone at once. The light wasn't coming to destroy humanity. It was coming to retrieve what the empires had lost. The spark that made humans unpredictable, defiant, and creative, the very thing that had allowed them to rise, had spread through alien technology like wildfire, rewriting everything it touched. Humanity hadn't taken their power. The power had chosen humanity. As the ships hovered over the planet, the hybrid stations orbiting Earth began to hum with energy. They were no longer controlled by human command. The signal, the same one the ancestors had warned about, was reaching completion. It wasn't a weapon, but a bridge. For a brief moment, the sky above Earth shimmered with an endless web of light, connecting stars, planets, and the ruins of alien worlds. And then, everything went still. The Conquerors froze mid-air, their forms flickering wildly before disintegrating into light. No explosions, no screams, just silence. The light from the sky folded inward and vanished, leaving behind a clear night full of untouched stars. Humanity had survived again. But as relief washed through the settlements, a strange realization began to grow. The hybrid cores were still active, quietly humming beneath the surface. The signals hadn't stopped. They had changed direction. The researcher watched the final readings appear across her screen and whispered what no one wanted to believe. They weren't coming to take it back. They were trying to stop it. Far above Earth, deep in the void, a faint pulse of energy leapt from one star to another, faster than light, unstoppable, alive. Humanity hadn't just awakened its own evolution. It had unleashed something far greater, something spreading beyond their reach. And somewhere across the stars, new voices began to answer back. For days after the light vanished, Earth was silent again. The skies cleared, the storms faded, and for the first time in living memory, the stars looked calm. No ships, no signals, just stillness. People came out from bunkers and shelters, blinking into the sunlight as if they were waking from a long dream. The power grids that had gone dark began flickering back online one by one, and the world slowly started to breathe again. Humanity had survived something far beyond understanding, but no one could quite explain how. In the cities, rebuilding began once more. Farmers returned to their fields, scavengers went back to the ruins, and children chased each other through streets once haunted by war. The world was scarred but alive, and that was enough. Yet beneath the surface, deep in the vaults and under the old foundations, the hybrid cores still pulsed faintly, their rhythm now slow and steady, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Scientists monitored them carefully, but the readings never spiked again. Whatever had happened, it was finished. Or so they thought. The researcher who had first uncovered the truth about humanity's change spent her last years studying the remnants of alien data left in orbit. She discovered that the signal spreading into the stars wasn't destructive. It was creative. It wasn't seeking to conquer. It was building connections, rewriting broken systems across the galaxy. The energy that once fueled empires was now flowing freely, growing into something new. Humanity had become the seed of that change. In trying to erase Earth, the Conquerors had given birth to a force that could no longer be controlled by any species. Generations later, children would learn about the great rise of humanity, not as a war story, but as a story of transformation. The day the Conquerors fell was no longer celebrated as a victory, but as a reminder that survival isn't about power, it's about adaptation. The new leaders of Earth taught that the stars were not enemies to fear, but places waiting to be understood. Humanity, once a scattered and broken species, had become the quiet heart of something vast. As decades turned to centuries, signals began returning from deep space. Not warnings this time, but echoes. Soft voices in unfamiliar languages, reaching back toward Earth. They were worlds that had been silent since the Empire's collapse, now awakening, touched by the same wave of change. Humanity listened, learned, and began to answer. The hybrid cores were never shut down. They became a network of light woven into the planet's very crust, a reminder of what had been lost and what had been found. Some said they could feel it in the air, a faint hum, the pulse of connection between Earth and the stars. In the end, humanity didn't rule the galaxy. They didn't conquer it or claim it. They simply became part of it. The empires that once saw humans as lesser were gone, but their mistake had reshaped the universe forever. Standing beneath a sky now full of calm, bright stars, one could almost hear the faint echo of that final transmission. The message that had started it all. Remember what we became, and so they did. Humanity rose, fell, and rose again, not as conquerors, but as creators. The Earth grew quiet, not from defeat, but from peace. And somewhere far beyond the edges of the known sky, the light of humanity continued to travel. Still moving, still reaching, still alive.